Hi, everybody. Welcome. This is Didi Russell with WeddingVenueOwners.com and the Wedding Venue Owners and Managers community on Facebook. We love to share wedding venue stories. It captures our hearts. It's exciting and so fascinating to learn about every wedding venue owner that we can get information from and connect with, and to share their stories. Their stories are unique and interesting and fun. And we learn a lot from them. So this week's featured wedding venue is Maple Ridge at Red Maple Ranch. And we have Pamela Mckenney, and she's going to share with us a little bit about her venue. So Pamela, will you please introduce yourself?
Hi, I am Pamela Mckenney. I run this venue with my husband, Brian Mckenney. He and I have been doing this since 2017. So we kind of fell in love with this property, not for a venue. We fell in love with it because we needed a space for our racehorses.
Well, and where is the venue located?
We are in northeastern Pennsylvania. So we're located in Troy, Pennsylvania.
And what's the next largest metro area?
I would probably say Williamsport, Pennsylvania, or even Elmira, New York. Horseheads.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so can you tell us a little bit about how you decided on this property, and what was that like? And then how you decided, oh, well, let's host some weddings. Like, how did that come about?
Oh boy. So our first year, we ran a barn sale and didn't sell anything. But we had so many customers that would come in the door and say, oh my goodness, we just love this barn. You need to do something with this. So we got the idea from the customers who actually came in, and that's how we ended up opening the venue.
Well, what is a barn sale? What were you selling in the barn?
All antiques and some new things, some of the antiques that were from 1700s. Here.
So you had all that cool stuff, and they could come in for a barn sale, and that wasn't, I mean, that seems like that seems like an awesome event.
Yeah, we thought so too. However,
not so much. Interesting.
Not so much. They just wanted to come ooh and all over the barn.
Okay, and so they start bringing it up to you. You should have events here. You should have weddings here. Oh my gosh, this would be so great. And that starts to plant the seeds of the idea for you. So when you started to research this idea, what were some of the things that you found? What were some of your strategies? Did you have to go through zoning? Did you have to change things? What was that experience like when you decided, all right, let's do this, to the time that you kind of were able to open?
Probably just like any business. I used to own 2 restaurants, and then I sold in Florida. But start with a business plan. You start with marketing and look at your demographics and, income per household and age and, just everything is included. And then looking at your competition, who's out there, how many other venues are out there, maybe in like a 50 or 100-mile radius. Just start with that. And so building that business plan was very important from the get-go. And then once we started that, we realized in our pretty much close or immediate area, there were only 2 other venues that were here at the time. Now there's a lot more. But there were only 2 at the time. And so we thought, wow, this would be great. So then, of course, you start with the building itself, and we had several contractors out to take a look at the building to see if it was even worthy of, saving and keeping. There was rain pouring in the back of the barn. There was hay up to the ceiling.
Oh, wow.
It needed some TLC. So we began, emptying the hay and getting that all burned, because it wasn't good to feed the animals since it had been sitting there with everything in it. And so we just started with the hay, clearing it out. And then, of course, calling around and getting prices from contractors, roofing contractors, and beams and flooring.
So what did you have to do? And was did you have zoning come out and make changes, or were you under agriculture or agritourism and you didn't have to do certain zoning things because you had the benefit of that? Every county is so different. So sometimes if you're under agritourism, there's a lot of things you don't have to do that others do. But once you move the event inside the building, sometimes that comes with special use permit, and then engineers have to come out and they have to, you know, look at everything from how are they going to get on your property? Do we need to widen the road there for a curve and you have to pay for that? Or do you need big beams in the ceiling and the engineering, you know, outline for that? So was it zoning that came out and gave you a guide on that, or did you have to get an engineer? How did you do that?
So we are very fortunate because we are zoned agricultural. And so therefore we had to go to our township, and we approached the township, and they basically came out and they knew the barn. It was once a 400-acre dairy farm that a lot of the older people in this area have actually worked here and milked cows. So they were quite familiar with the barn and the property. And so you might imagine they came out and said, oh my goodness, that's amazing. I'm so glad you're doing something with it. That's awesome. And so we were given the get-go right from the beginning, you know, because they wanted to see it, you know, kept up and whatever, and taken care of. And so they were excited about it, to be honest with you. So that was really good on our part, you know.
Absolutely. That's a nice bonus when they're excited for you. So did you have to go through zoning to get a special use permit?
We did not.
Okay.
No, just the township's approval.
And was there a hearing involved in that? Did you have to send out letters to everybody?
I did not.
How nice is that? Nice. Very nice.
Yes,
that is like
very nice. Yes. But we did have it inspected just for our own benefit. We had two contractors actually come, structural engineers that came and spent a good 8 hours here. And the barn is quite large. It's 7,000 square feet. So it took them a good 8 to 9, 10 hours to go through this barn.
Yeah,
and they went through
those Pennsylvania dairy barns are no joke. Those things are huge. No. I've driven through Pennsylvania to do venue tours so many times. And I can tell you the barns in Pennsylvania are like unlike anything else. I mean, they're massive, and literally they would have hundreds of cows in them. So a lot of them have that heavy, sturdy flooring, which is a lot of times concrete, good for spraying off, good for cleaning, good for a foundation for when you want to start doing events. It kind of makes it easy. But it's very interesting how massive those things are. And Pennsylvania barns are just, oh my God, they're so romantic. They have all different, I mean, they're huge. I mean, some of them have partial rock structure. Some of them, you know, are stories high. And I mean, they're just so gorgeous.
Yes. But it was, I think the funniest story I have to tell is trying to call roofing contractors and ask them for a price for a 7,000 square foot roof. And they said 700. And I said, no, 7,000 square feet. And they just were like, oh, okay. We'll get you a price on that.
Heck yeah. So how long what did you eventually end up doing? 1, 2 beams? What did that look like, and how long did that take? And, you know, this is just a lot of people that are watching thinking of purchasing a wedding venue or a property that has a barn on it. This is really something to pay attention to, because a lot of times you all think, well, the barn is already here, we don't have to do anything, but you do have to do structural, you have to, really get someone out there like an engineer that really knows that structure and the safety. And it's a big, big deal.
It is a big deal. I would suggest buy a bank. Because, to this day, I have earned zero. Everything that we have made has gone back into the barn.
Yeah.
So, And we've been doing it, quite a few years, like I said. So it does take time, and we had to replace the flooring. The whole side over here had to be replaced. We had several beams that needed to be replaced that were in the process of being rotted just from beetles. We have a lot of beetles up here that burrow into the wood. So that had to be replaced. We did add bathrooms, which was very important to me. I was not going to go in a porta potty. So we added the bathrooms. We're in the process of almost finishing the kitchen. So that's an amazing feat. That's going to be huge. We'll be able to plate 400 in the kitchen. Obviously, the roof needed, to be replaced. There was water pouring in, like I said. We added stairs so that we could utilize the upstairs loft. And of course, safety is number one priority. So you have to add safety rails and make sure the hay chutes are locked so that no little kids fall down. Different safety issues that you have to think about, when you're opening it to the public. So all of that had to be taken care of, prior to getting, a group of people in here. So
how long did it take to kind of, from the spark of the idea to really kind of being safely open?
I would say almost a year.
Okay.
I mean, we kind of worked, little groups here and there, we would do. But we would contain them to the areas that we kind of were finished, so to speak. And then as we got more and more into it and got more and more progressive, then then of course we would expand, more and more. So, but yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the beautiful design of the barn. So you had the barn there, it was already, you did some structural things to make sure it was safe. And then I see beautiful lighting behind you and different things. So what are some of the aesthetic, design elements that you added just, for beauty? And
so I'm a glam girl. So I have to have my chandeliers. So of course the barn had to be all rewired, because it was wiring from probably 1800s, and the barn was built in 1790s. So it had to be all rewired. And of course, my husband said, huh? And I said, I want chandeliers. And he said, it's a barn. So I got my chandeliers, as you can see.
I see who won that argument. Yep.
Yes. Good hubby.
What are some of the design inspirations that you had? I'm assuming that you researched other barn wedding venues and got inspired and stuff. So what are some of the must-haves that you knew were trending or important to add to the barn from an aesthetic point of view?
Well, for one, the bar. I mean, we had to definitely put the bar in and make sure that that area was being utilized, So once we put the bathrooms in, then we were able to put the bar in because we knew where space-wise, what we could fit where, As far as inspiration, Pinterest, I saw the other two barns that were venues when we opened. One of them was a cattle sale barn that is in town, surrounded by blacktop. And back in the day, they used to run cattle through it and auction cattle off. And it's since been redone, obviously, all on the inside. And they did the whole thing in the inside, all in white fir, wood panels, like tongue and groove wood panels. So I thought, wow, that's kind of neat, but I didn't see any fantastic lighting or anything like that. And I was like, wow, that's kind of missing. And then, of course, we have the 30 acres out back. So I thought, well, this would be great to have ceremonies, back here rather than being contained inside the barn. So the other venue is a winery, and they kind of sit up on a hill, and they have the winery in the background, which I thought was absolutely beautiful. But most of the barns around here, those venues can only hold between 100 and 150 to 175 people. So we were kind of fortunate in the fact that this barn was so big and we could hold quite a few people. So
what is your maximum capacity that you're comfortable hosting?
So we're comfortable with about 380.
Okay. How often do you get requests for what? Yeah, we know that the average is somewhere between 75 and 150, depending on where you are and what type of venue you have. But that's an average. So,
yeah.
How often do you get requests for the 200, 225, 250, and up? And have you ever maxed out on capacity?
A lot. Most of our average weddings run around 260 to 270.
Wow. All right.
We have about 6 generations here, and they don't leave here, So we have great grandfathers and grandparents and, family and friends and cousins and, everyone. So therefore, one immediate family can have up to 50 people. So that's just normal up here. What does
it take to manage a wedding that has 300 guests plus, versus, most people having, a solid system for 100, 150? What does it take for 300, and how do you manage that volume?
To us, it's just another day. It's just another wedding. I mean, to us, it's no different than hosting 50 people. I mean, we put into place the same principles that we would for someone who came with 300, we have the same people involved, moving chairs, cleaning bathrooms, all the behind the scenes stuff that us venue owners get to do. Yeah. So it's the same.
So when you started to advertise and promote your wedding venue, what are some of the things that you did initially to start to get wedding clients to find you and to start coming in? How did that process work?
So the first thing we did was we made flyers and we put them around town. In Troy, there's 1,200 people. So it's quite a small town. So we started there just to let people know in the area that we were opening the venue and that we were here. The next step was to get on Facebook and create an account and start with the marketing on Facebook. And then, of course, we went to Instagram. We were on Instagram. We posted some things, I think, on Pinterest. Hiring a social media manager. We did that. Who now got married here, who just bought their first house, who quit, who quit on me. Oh, well, life goes on, right? But anyway, but yeah, so you just start with the beginning and build it up from there, and then of course, word of mouth, everywhere we go, And
then you also host events to kind of increase the word. So some of those events are like wedding open houses and things like that. And then some of them are more community relatives. So can you share some of the events that help you get community traffic, and then some of the events that are focused on getting engaged, increasing your bookings?
So every year we used to have a wine and cheese festival that was about 20 minutes away from us. And after 35 years, they decided to stop hosting the festival. So in that case, we kind of stepped in where they left off, and we started a fall festival. So next weekend will be our second fall festival. The first one was a big success. We had over 800 people show up, even in a COVID year, which was amazing.
That is a huge turnout.
Yeah, huge turnout.
How long do you plan? How long do you start planning? I know you probably post about it throughout the year, but how long do you really go, okay, we need, and what does the fall festival look like? Are you, offering vendor space, and then you have to track that, and then doing tickets so that you can track attendance, or how do you set that up?
So last year we did event. Oh my goodness, what is that called? Eventbrite. We did that last year so that they could purchase the tickets ahead of time, and then they could purchase them at the gate as well. So we only charge $8 for adults and $4 for kids. We have a corn maze, we have a band, we have food trucks, we have all kinds of vendors. The vendor fee last year was $25, but we actually didn't make a whole lot because we ended up paying a fortune for the bounce house, and we paid a ton for the bands. And by the time we were finished, there wasn't a lot. So we ended up upping it this year to $35 for the vendors. We went up a little bit, but hopefully we'll come out ahead a little bit.
How many vendors did you have last year, and how many do you think you'll have this year?
So last year, I think we had around 40. This year, I think we have less. I think we're around 25. Only because we've had 3 other fall festivals pop up on the same exact day.
Oh, no.
At the same exact time.
Oh, no. Wow.
So when you only have, 1,200 people, it's kind of difficult so.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, that's a challenge.
It is.
But 800 people, I mean, that's amazing. Even if you had 200, 300, 400 people come out, that's incredible, especially for a vendor that only pays, less than $50 to have a vendor space.
Yes.
They can sell items. I'm sure they have local artisanal items that they sell and offer.
Yes.
And different things, which to have that many people is incredible. A lot of them do, your little church shows and stuff like that around town. And 3 people come in. So
no, they were quite happy last year. They were running out of food by 3 o'clock, and the event went from 10 to 5. And the hot dog guy, I think, made a trip to the grocery store, at least 5 times. He kept running out. So I think that was a good thing, but everybody was happy. The lady she brought wreaths, homemade wreaths, and she was selling those, and she was selling those like crazy. We had a petting zoo. That's coming back again this year. We have baby goats at the petting zoo.
Cute.
So that'll be fun. We have little kids bowling.
I'm sorry?
We have little kids bowling too.
Well,
kind of fun.
Everyone wants to get out with their family and have that fall fun. Everyone's so excited about it. The leggings come out, the flannels come out. It's still too hot for those, but we don't care. What will you do with the leads that come in, with the amount of people that come in? How will you manage that prospective return on investment for your time, energy, and effort? Do you host birthday parties? Do you host corporate events? Do you host other events? Or are you hoping that this transitions into more awareness for the weddings? What is your goal with the large events like this?
Well, since we had 800 come out last year, we've had a really big increase from that year to this year, as far as people knowing that we're here. And I think that was the number one goal, is letting people know that we're here and what we do offer. So last year we opened the barn for a short time and allowed people to just come and walk in here and tour and look at it, and, and imagine, if they have a wedding, if they have an event or something going on, they can say, oh, wow, I didn't know this was here. Now we know, now we can book it, and then offering our business card or flyers or whatever the case might be, answering questions sometimes. Sometimes we had people just come to us and say, hey, what do you charge for this? Or how many hours can I rent that? Or, how many people does it hold? Or, whatever the questions might be. That was important. And so for us, it's just kind of basically having people come and be aware, sharing awareness that we're here, that we're open, that we're doing business, that we have availability still for 2022, that we're booking for 2023. So that was a huge thing. We actually had, and I'll go back to that, this barn being a dairy farm. So yesterday, for the first time, we had a memorial for a farmer in this area who actually used to milk here. And he just passed away. And it was really sad. But his spouse, she came back here and she stopped by and wanted to come see the barn about 2 weeks ago. And she said to her son, she's standing on the balcony, and she said to her son, who's down here on the main floor, she said, "Book it. Just sign the contract. This is the place."
That's what we want to hear on every tour, right? Is that they just yell from the balcony or the staircase or wherever they are, "Book it. Just book it."
She's like, "I don't even care how much it is. Just book it. We want to be here." So.
Aww. That's
so
amazing.
They had the memorial.
So what, aside from that, so you host the weddings, you host memorials, what are some of the other events that you host and hope to host more of?
So we do have several anniversary, renewal, vow renewal, retirement party. We had a retirement party actually Friday night. A gentleman who owned a business here, had worked for 35 or 40 years, had just retired. And so he had the retirement party here. That was fun. I did a big slideshow and whatnot. So that was exciting. So we try not to do birthday parties just because it's a really old barn and things can kind of get out of hand, if you know what I mean.
What about corporate events?
We do corporate events, meetings, things like that. So we'll provide like the slideshow.
Client appreciation and like employee parties or employee picnics or employee appreciation, the bigger kind of corporate events that they can't do maybe in town at a local meeting space or something.
Right. And we're trying to reach out now because we just had the house. We finished the house now and it's up on Airbnb. So it's a 7-bedroom house. And so we're offering retreats now. So the barn can be used for conference space as well as catering here. So they can eat, have a conference, and then sleep in the back or in the house. So that could be, utilized. It's very convenient. Awesome.
Yeah. So adding those revenue streams as you go along, kind of bit by bit instead of all at once so that you can kind of manage those. I do want to go back to the potentially 800 people that are coming out to your place this weekend. How will you manage your marketing at that event? Do you have a booth set up so that you're handing out brochures and information for weddings and memorials and, family reunions and different events like that so they know? How will you make the most of this marketing, this event for you?
So I'm probably going to be running around like a chicken with my head cut off. Between my husband and I, one of us have to sit at the table and sell tickets at the door.
Right. It takes a lot of hands to manage all of that, for sure.
Takes a lot of hands. So one of us are going to be emptying the trash as we go along. And I did find 2 trustworthy people that I've known forever to run our pumpkin tent. So people that come can go in there and take selfies and sit on the hay bales and with the pumpkins and whatnot, or buy pumpkins or whatever. And then another one of our guests are going to be under a tent with our brochures and our business cards and flyers. And they're also going to be selling some of our antiques. Those will be out there. We have an apple cart from 1800s. So there's a lot of different antiques. We had an armoire that was made into a bar that's going to be sold as well. So there's a lot of really cool stuff that will be sold. But she's going to take care of that for me as I'm running around doing the rest of it. Also, those other venues that have popped up, which we've had seven, all barns.
Oh, wow. Very close to you.
Very close to us.
Yeah.
Doesn't help.
Yeah.
So that's been very difficult. So instead of having, maybe an 80% piece of the pie, now it's gotten down to maybe, an eighth of the pie.
What we need to do is make the pie bigger. And what that means is working together to generate destination weddings for your area, generate weddings coming from an hour away, from an hour and a half away. It is very challenging by yourself, but as a group, there are some SEO things you all could do together, pitching in financially together to increase your SEO and kind of become your own economic development team to create excitement for the market. A community of the wedding community has to work together to change that impression and show the incredibly beautiful weddings that come out of that market. Our photographers are a huge, incredibly important part of that. Our relationship with photographers, they are our publicists. They are our media frenzy creating. You have relationships with them and they're doing a great job, and your brides are being able to afford a really good quality photographer. It changes the way that they look at that market, and it can increase the excitement to participate or to have your wedding in that market, which is hugely important. But taking control out of the big wedding websites and putting it into the hands of the local wedding venue owners is a huge deal. And you and I will talk about that offline. But I definitely have some ideas, and I think that they're very simple. And I think it takes oh my goodness, how many venues are going to start? I just had one that's right on the border of Florida. And she said during COVID, 10 new wedding venues in her market. And she says that before COVID, she was booking 60, 70 weddings a year. It was never a problem. She's been around for 13 years and she never had to advertise. Now, all of a sudden, it's like her mojo is gone. She's just drifting around like, this just took all the wind out of my sails, and everything I do that I know from years before is not working again. It's like everything changed. So it is going to require, I think, our venue owners to step up and become leaders in their market and lead the way in advertising, and keep that advertising local that goes out and broadcasts how charming that town is, how beautiful. Luray, Virginia is another good example of a beautiful, charming town, creating and enticing couples to come in. Couples are driving an hour and a half, and that means all of their guests are driving an hour and a half to come out and have a wedding in beautiful Luray, Virginia. It's a stunning market. You live in a stunning market. It's beautiful and it's charming and it's small, and you get to go and have a Hallmark movie moment when they're in there. But people have to know about those Hallmark moments, and that comes from your photographer relationships, your videographer relationships, and the venue owners pulling together. So I'll talk to you about my plans for that. And anyone out there that's watching this that is kind of in that same scenario where you're wanting to get away from the big wedding websites and, create some buzz for your market and take a leadership role, I'd love to talk to you about that. I'll put my information in the end. But in the meantime, tell me a little bit about the brides and grooms that fall in love with your venue and book your venue.
Oh my goodness. We really have had, and I got to knock on some wood, because we really have had some amazing couples. And, my husband and I, we have such an amazing relationship and a love for one another and respect. And we really, truly wanted to do this. It'll make me cry. We wanted to do this for these couples.
Oh.
Yeah. So when you see them starting their life together, makes it all worthwhile. Yeah.
No matter how many weddings I go to, I still get that moment when I see them in the aisle
It's terrible. Oh my goodness. But
everybody out there watching, I gotta say, this is the difference between a venue that is like maybe corporate or out there just kind of in numbers land, and sales quota land, and a locally owned and operated wedding venue that gets choked up and is in love with weddings and wedding clients. I mean, this is the difference, that when you book a venue where the owner is so passionate about weddings and falls in love with weddings, it's an entirely different experience.
Yeah,
absolutely.
They are just the cutest. So they're just beginning their life together and they're so in love. And oh my goodness, we just love on them. You know, we always tell them, oh, you're part of the Maple Ridge family, but you really, you know, you kind of are. I mean, some of our first brides, you know, are now having their first children and their second child, and bought their first home. And, you know, I mean, they're still in this area and they still come back here. They still come to events. They still, you know, want to have dinner here. They still want, you know, friends and family to come here. You know what I mean? So it's not just, you know, about the money, you know, it's really not. I mean, obviously to run a business it is, but I mean, we've had, and I don't like to share this, but we've had brides that didn't have two nickels to rub together, and they would come and say, oh my gosh, we love this barn, but this is, you know, our budget, and we don't even have $100 to like get the insurance, you know, for the bartender. And I would say, okay, here's $100, you know, like we'd help them out because, you know, that's what you do. We'd get up at 5 a.m. and make breakfast for 16 girls in your house, you know, and brunch, and have mimosas and laughs and sit around the dining room table before the wedding and get out all of our jitters and, you know, sit and make coffee and talk and laugh and share stories. And I mean, that's what it's about. You know,
you're making me fall in love with the venue. I mean, everyone should have a venue owner that is this much in love with their guests and hosting weddings.
All right.
What Maple do Ridge your couples get when they book Maple Ridge at Red Maple Ranch? What are they getting?
So we include tables and chairs. That's kind of a given. We also include valet parking. Because like I said, here in this area, we have grandparents and we have great grandparents, and nobody wants to walk 2 miles to their car to get to the barn or the wedding, you know, or the ceremony site. So we have a valet team that goes out, gives them a ticket, parks the car, and then brings it back at the end of the night so they don't have to walk or go anywhere. And a lot of them are sometimes in a wheelchair, sometimes in a walker, you know, they're in their 90s. You know,
that's a really lovely touch. That's a really thoughtful touch. What are the hours that your couples are getting when they book your venue?
So they have the barn on Friday from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. They can have rehearsal dinner here. That's included. They have their full rehearsal. And then on Saturday, they have the barn again from 10 till 11:45 p.m.
How do you communicate that to your couples that, you know, this is the contract and everyone needs to comply with the contract? Do you ever get a lot of, hey, but if we could make this change to the contract or this change to the contract? What are some of the common issues that come up?
So we try to do that when we go over the contract from the very beginning so that there's no miscommunication toward the end, because that's the worst. Oh, I wanted this, and you know, it's not in there, you know, I'm sorry. So I make sure it's taken care of at the time that they book and sign the contract. I make sure they go through every word. If there's changes that they want to make, we make them right then and there. If I don't have an event on Thursday and they want to drop some stuff off, I do give them an hour and a half to come and just drop things off. I don't have a problem with that. As long as I'm here, and I don't have events going on that day or anything like that, then I open the barn for them and allow them just to drop some things off. I do have people that take advantage of that and just start decorating and, taking their sweet time. And I kind of have to, start shutting the lights out and locking the door. But yeah, we do, we're pretty accommodating.
How many weddings a year do you try to host? What's the goal number?
I try to do around 20 because they are pretty much a full weekend. They're not a one day. I would say this past summer for 2022, we started booking a 1 day, 12-hour wedding. We lowered the price and we started just doing a 1 day because, like I said, there were a lot of couples who didn't have 2 nickels to rub together and they couldn't afford the price. And so we said, well, we'll honor it. If you just want to do a 12-hour day, you can come in, set up, decorate, have your wedding, and then clean up, and that's it. So we did start that, and we've only booked 1 so far.
Okay.
So it's kind of experimental. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
To try and generate a little bit better. What is your deposit structure like? How much of a deposit do you collect on contract signing?
So we do half down.
Okay.
And half 60 days before.
So with the more budget single day person, because you are giving up a Saturday, which is premium probably.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Do you book those on a shorter time frame? Do you say those are only bookable 3 to 6 months out, or are just who have first come first serve for the 20?
First come first serve. Yeah.
Okay. And how do you feel about the 50% structure? That's very standard. That happens a lot. We did do a wedding venue owners working vacation, and we met a venue owner in Savannah who does a $500 deposit. And that's helped her increase her booking substantially. A lot of people would be afraid of that method because that means I'm going to get really kind of more budget brides that are not going to value or appreciate my venue. And maybe some of them are going to cancel. But she says in Savannah, where they're close to a college, so they have college that
right.
They come in, and sometimes because that $500 deposit is so enticing to them, and most others are 50%, it's almost more like an impulse urge, like I want to book this one, I don't need to see another venue. What are your thoughts on something like that? Do you feel like that is going to bring a clientele that's not going to value the venue, or that's going to be more trouble than it's worth?
Personally, I feel like in the long run, I think it's going to be more of a headache to me, because I would rather see someone put the half down and be completely committed to someone putting, a small amount down and saying, oh, it's only $500. It's still, yeah. But if they're putting, 2,000 or more down, they're pretty committed. Yeah. They're going to make sure that they're there,
Right.
They're not going to take any chances. So we do the 50%, and it's worked out pretty well.
Is it non-refundable?
It is non-refundable.
Yeah. Do you require your couples to have wedding insurance? Do you require the vendors to be licensed and insured?
All vendors must be licensed and insured. Period.
How do you verify that?
So I get a paper form from each one of the vendors.
Okay.
Yeah.
And,
go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. And then, so they're licensed and insured. So does that mean your couples are not typically licensed or insured, or they don't need to have insurance?
Yeah. So our couples, that's another one of our perks, is that we cover them.
Okay.
So we cover them under the barn policy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know that we need to wrap up because we're going to run out of time, but I want to just thank you so tremendously for sharing all of this with us. And I'm going to try and get this updated and published just in case some people are in your neck of the woods, some other venue owners that want to come check you out and see you. I want to remind
we would love to have you.
for the Fall Fest, I want to remind all of our venue owners that one of your best support systems in this entire world is other venue owners. I know that you may have had an issue with someone in the past, or kind of a working negative relationship, or maybe you really reached out to another venue owner and they were not nice or not receptive. But the majority of venue owners, especially in the wedding venue owners and managers community, want to reach out. They want to share. They want to like your social media and follow along and really support you and make sure that you're supported. So I want to encourage everyone to go to Maple Ridge at Red Maple Ranch and like the Instagram, like the Facebook, check it out. I'm going to put all the links in the blog, and I will put the website at